engage in the questions that you have. We have former Mayor Williams here, Anthony Williams. He's the DC Tax Revision Commission. And so we will talk to him and have some feedback from him this evening, as well as others on the panel that are from the commission tonight. And so I'll allow them to introduce themselves in just 1 second. Nick Johnson will give us the presentation tonight, and we'll allow him to go through that and have some feedback on DC tax system. And we'll be having a Menti poll and some questions. We don't even have to really go into the Menti poll. We just ask you the questions as we go through the presentation. So without further ado, we'll get started. One question to kind of break the ice this evening is, what do you like best about DC in the springtime? What do you like best about DC in the spring?
The revenue from tourists.
The revenue from tourists. Anybody else? What do you like about DC in the springtime? The cherry blossom. Anyone else? No?
Hiking in Rock Creek Park.
Hiking in Rock Creek Park. Excellent. Anybody on the panel? What do you like best about DC in the springtime?
Outdoor dining
Outdoor dining.
without heaters.
Without heaters.
Yeah, just being able to walk around, extra daylight.
Extra daylight, yeah. The days get longer and longer. Up to June 21st, which is the longest day of the year. Just told someone that earlier. Yeah. Anyone else? We'll keep it going. So this is our agenda for the evening. We have a brief welcome. We'll talk about the purpose of this discussion. Background, why taxes. I'll give you some background on what taxes are used for and how the taxes basically generate all the services that you have within the city. We'll talk about what the DC Tax Revision Commission actually is, and then there'll be discussion where questions are asked, and definitely looking for your feedback. Again, if you have questions or you want to offer a comment at any time, just raise your hand and I will bring the microphone to you. And then we'll talk about next steps, what the commission does with the information it gathers from public meetings, as well as from the work that they're doing independently. So the purpose of the meeting tonight is to provide Ward 8 and other DC residents with an opportunity to offer your thoughts and your feedback on the DC tax system that is before the DC Tax Revision Commission, or the TRC, which we'll say the TRC throughout the presentation. The TRC will hear and consider those views as it recommends changes to both the council. So, what ward do you live in? I think that's in Ward 7 and Ward 8 in the room. So, and some Marylanders who dropped by, who support our residents here in this neighborhood. And so, we'll go to the next slide. And I will pass it off to my co-picture.
See a few words of welcome.
Yeah, so 2 words of welcome from our panel. So I'll pass it on.
Hey everybody, I'm Erica Williams. I'm with the DC Fiscal Policy Institute. We're a nonprofit here in town that is working to advance a racially just tax budget policy system in the district. And nice to see you all, and thanks for being here on your evening time to talk about this important topic.
It's so great to see you. Thank you for coming. My name is Yeshim. I'm the executive director of the Policy Center and other things I'm a competitor. It's so important that you made time and came to talk about. So thank you.
Tony Williams, Chairman of the Commission, and I'm also the CEO of the Federal City Council, and we've really arranged a number of these sessions like this around the city with different groups. Because we really, whatever, regardless of perspectives or backgrounds or interests, we really want to involve as many people as possible in the work of the commission and really use this moment, the institution of the commission, as a teaching moment for the district so we can all get up to date on where we are and have a debate on where we should go. So.
Thanks, Chelsea. Becky Strauss. Staff member with the commission. I got here a little after 6. This is all this awesome. This team, you guys are amazing. My name is Nick Johnson. People sometimes say, "Why are you guys working on tax policy?" That's really excited. I was like, "Look, tax policy, like, I don't know. It's like a bridge, and this is one of the bridges I came over to get here today. There's a bridge, the new Frederick Douglass Bridge near my house. I think that the district's tax system is like all of the infrastructure we have around us, right? All our roads and our bridges. It's what it takes for this city to function. We couldn't have any of the stuff we have in the district if we didn't have a tax system. And the other thing about bridges is, like, we've got some crappy bridges, right? You've got some bridges that are kind of falling down and junky and are ugly, it's like any other system. You can do it right or you can do it wrong. And we want the tax system to be done right. We want the tax system, like for bridges, to get us where we need to go. And we want it to bring us together. Another nice thing about this bridge is how it connects different parts of the city. Okay. So that's how I think about tax policy. So I'm gonna just give you some highlight, we'll talk a little bit about it so we're kind of all on the same page. And but it's also a chance for you all really to ask your questions of us. I will say Yeshua and Erica, as well as Mayor Williams, know so much about this topic and they are amazing resources. So this is your chance to ask all kinds of stuff. But here's why we have taxes, right? 20 think about all the taxes we pay as district residents. About a quarter of that budget, 27% pays for our schools, our school system, and that includes like our libraries, parks. Another big thing that taxes in DC pay for is healthcare and other human services, childcare, fire, rescue, police, corrections, public safety in general. That's a pretty big use of our tax dollars. Roads, bridges, just kind of the operations of the city. And that includes like all financing mechanisms, how we pay for this stuff, how we pay for our, when they build new schools, we build new libraries, paying off those, about a quarter of it. And then just the the operations of the city, the DC council, regulations like housing inspectors, making sure that the housing is safe, making sure that the business code enforcement, all that kind of stuff. It's another big thing. And that's the pie. That's where tax dollars go for. And that's why we have tax systems to pay for all of our systems. Hey, come on in. So the base of the tax system are this. Look, we only have two places we pay our taxes to. Just like other parts of the country, if you live in Prince George's County, you pay taxes to the county, you pay taxes to the town, and you pay taxes to the state, and you pay taxes to the government. In the district, it's pretty straightforward. It's either your federal taxes, like federal income tax, social security tax, or it's DC government. So today we're mostly talking about, really entirely talking about DC government taxes. So these are the kinds of taxes we pay. There's really basically four categories. There's your property taxes. We're going to talk a little bit about property taxes today. You got your property taxes on your house, homeowners. If you own an apartment building, if you own any kind of business property, you're paying property taxes to the district. Income taxes, that includes like the income taxes you pay, comes out of your paycheck, but it also includes the income taxes that businesses pay on their profits. So big corporations in district or a lot of small businesses are organized as corporations, they're paying income taxes too. Property taxes, income taxes, sales and excise taxes, so 6% sales tax, 10% tax on meals. We got tax on rental cars, some other things like that. Alcohol taxes, cigarette taxes, motor vehicle excise taxes, gasoline taxes, if you buy tax in the district. And then there's a whole other category of DC revenues that's like fees, fines, everything from, parking tickets to, if you got a speeding ticket, the revenues from the lottery, revenues from gambling and so on. There's just a whole bunch of different kinds of categories of revenues, and we can dig into these in our discussion. So as the Tax Revision Commission was going through our work, we've heard about a bunch of different challenges that we got in our tax system. So one is, the economy goes up and down. The economy goes up, people are making more money, people are buying more stuff, we're paying more taxes, and the district government has a little bit more money. When the economy goes down a little bit, it makes a little bit less money. Right now, one of the things that's happening is downtown a lot of people aren't coming into the office. So a lot of the big office buildings downtown don't have as many people coming into them. And so people aren't paying as much rent, so the value of those buildings is going down. So district government is actually collecting less taxes. So the revenue forecast, they're expecting less money is gonna come into district government to pay for, and that's a challenge in terms of paying for all the other stuff that are coming in. Another challenge is we've heard about is that some of the taxes we have in the system hit hardest at people who have least ability to pay them. Right? The sales tax hits everybody kind of regardless of ability to pay. Cigarette tax hits everybody regardless of ability to pay. We've got over the years, the council, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for not great reasons, enacts tax breaks that are kind of hidden in the tax code, and they just live in the tax code. They benefit a few people year in, year out. Going through the tax code and looking all over, hey, come on. Going through the tax code is one of the things that we need to do. So one of the things we face here in the district is the federal government doesn't let district government tax the commuters who are coming in from Maryland and Virginia. So folks who come in from Maryland and Virginia, work in the district, don't pay DC taxes. They pay Maryland and Virginia tax under signal. They don't pay DC taxes. So, and that's different from other places. A lot of people come in other places. If you're in New York, the people coming into New York City, Connecticut, New Jersey, they're paying taxes to New York City. DC doesn't have that. Another challenge we got is that we've got economic competition from our neighbors, right? Businesses, residents, people, Virginia and Maryland, they'd love to have a lot of some of our DC businesses and residents come live there and pay taxes there. So we've got that challenge. And then we got some a little bit complicated, right? A little bit of pain in the neck about the tax system. We can talk something about that too. We've heard a lot about that as we've gone through. This is just a graph, this is sort of a line graph. I kind of like this. The main thing I want you to look at is the, you see the orange line and the yellow line? Kind of the second one and the fourth one down. See how starting in 2020, they start going down? That's property tax revenue. And so that's kind of the end of the real estate was like super hot, interest rates were low, right? It was really tight real estate market. So homes started to go down, and same thing what I was saying a minute ago about those big commercial property buildings downtown. So we're losing a little bit of our property tax revenue. That's a challenge. Income tax revenue right now is going up. As people have been particularly people in higher income brackets, people making a lot of money already, they're making even more money coming out of the pandemic. We tax them at a pretty good rate here in the district, so that's more revenue for the district. We don't know how long that's going to go on. So, should we stop for a minute?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah, so I think, some of what you've heard is a lot of information at once. But one of the questions we wanted to ask is like, what do you see, or have you thought about this as a challenge for the tax system? Or what are the challenges that you think about from the perspective of some of the things that Nick was talking about, whether it be where the taxes are going, when you look at the difference, so education, public safety, police, and the like, keeping up with infrastructure, roads and highways in the city. Is that something that you thought about? Or in general, from other things about how the tax system works, is there any thoughts that you had, any questions that you had that you think may be challenges for those of you who are ANC members? We have a couple folks who serve that capacity. Challenges that your residents may have talked about, either through small businesses or even in general, they may have seen in the past. Or if not, is there enough information that you've had?
Well, I'll start. My name is Dolores Walker. Hi, my name is Dolores Walker. I am the former first vice president of the Board of Democrats. One thing I see that kind of bothers me, which is small business. It's kind of hard to even have a space to afford because of the taxes. So what can you all give us any information about that or how that works?
So reflecting on the question, it's like how people who are trying to start a small business
Yeah.
and get adjusted to how they pay taxes to get that business started. Any information or background and, or direction?
Let's ask a clarification for you. Is it the amount of money or is it like the hassle and the bureaucracy of like the forms and stuff? Because we've heard some of both of those things. So I'm
It's a
curious.
mixture of both.
Mixture of both.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, it is very challenging to start a business, and it's particularly challenging in DC for the reasons as you mentioned. I think the biggest cost for many businesses is the cost of space, which tends to be very expensive in DC. And even if you don't have a profit at the beginning, you still have to pay at least a minimum tax for your establishment. You may have to pay a gross receipts tax. Then have to, be able to, if you're buying stuff, you have to pay sales taxes on the stuff that you buy. So it is costly. I think what makes it difficult in DC is the space is really expensive. During the pandemic, we saw a record number of businesses starting in DC. Not even more than the rest of the country. I think some folks, because they lost their jobs, they turned to starting a business as a way of creating income. But DC really saw a huge expansion. And I think part of the reason is this was the time when it was easier to start a business where you can do work from home. Whether you're selling stuff, whether you're providing services, you didn't need space anymore. So that definitely that's something that we have been watching.
I think one of the things too is that we can also direct folks at the end of this to the Tax Revision Commission and the DC Tax Office resources, which may be of some benefit to some others. Yes, ma'am.
State broker, property owner in DC. And I like to point out many things that happen, here, like as they affect African Americans. And we have like, because of the housing price and gentrification, we're seeing, fewer and fewer African Americans are able to afford properties in DC. But from a business standpoint, as a business owner, I'm 14th Street in Columbia Heights. In the last 10 years, we saw property values, property taxes accelerate, it's extraordinarily high. We saw 89% of the small local businesses go out of business as a result of it. Now, coupled with that was a major developer, DC USA. And I think that when they did that development on 14th Street, they did not take into consideration the adverse impact it would have on existing small businesses. So basically, we took a bath. And I think that something needs to be done to address that as development starts to now progress over Ward 7, Ward 8, to address that upfront rather than after the fact. Because as development comes, taxes go up and the prices but the incomes of the small businesses, they're small businesses. They don't have that kind of wherewithal to be able to withstand those kinds of huge gyrations in the marketplace. And that's very, very serious.
So some comments will just be taken for the record. I think there's a comment regarding how do small businesses prepare for when development happens in their area?
No, how do they survive? It's not the small business. It is the policies of the government that have not taken consideration the adverse impact of how
Development in these areas.
Right.
Your name again?
Sheila Crossbreed.
Ms. Reed, thank you so much for your comment. Yes, sir. State your name.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner, for hosting this. My name is Travis Fowley. I'm a Ward 7 resident. And for me, I think the biggest challenge, it's a bit more broader, facing the DC tax system. This is the first tax revision since the uprising against police murder in 2020, and an entire change for some parts of this country that have had the privilege of ignoring the issue or not paying as much attention as they would like, or as the rest of us would like. them to pay attention. And we've seen it impact so many areas of policy, so many areas of our culture, entertainment. It's impacted our entire society, and it's only natural to wonder, how is this gonna impact what our tax policy looks like? And a more general awareness of racial justice. And just to wrap up my thoughts, I know we have many folks who want to speak. I think the question is, how do we undo structural racism in our tax policy? That can undo some of the rising disparities that have been accelerated and put on steroids in the district. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments about challenges? Yes, ma'am.
Wells and awarding resident. And I guess I was thinking about the fact that people was coming from Maryland and Virginia and come here to work. And they use our infrastructure, our bridges, our streets and everything, and they're not being taxed. And so does that have an impact on how much income tax we pay?
Any feedback?
I mean, so I'll start with that question first, but yes, I mean, if we had, we have an estimate recently that showed that we're missing out. If we were to tax those folks the same way we tax residents, we would have about 3 billion more coming in income tax revenue. Under that scenario, we probably also have to pay more for some services that the federal government currently pays for right now, because they don't let us be a state and let us tax those folks. But we would definitely have the opportunity to bring in more revenue. And if we were doing that, we could think about how do you lower tax rates overall so that everybody's paying a little bit less, but you're spreading it out across lots more people, right? So you're bring in the same amount. I'll just say in terms of how do we address structural racism in the tax code, there are probably different opinions about that up here and on the commission, but the way I like to think about it is that we can advance racial justice both in sort of the design of the tax code, what we tax, who we tax, and how much, and also in terms of the revenue it affords us for the kinds of investments we want to be making in families and communities across the district. So like in terms of the design, it could be that we are taking a look at the things that don't get taxed as much, like wealth, which is predominantly held by white folks here in the city, but also across the country. Nationwide, I think white households hold about 87% of all wealth in the country. So it's highly concentrated, right? I think that's why a lot of people take a look at income taxes and think about taxing high incomes. There's also a real concentration of income that is racialized. And then there are things that you can do to sort of get cash back out the door to people. So we do that through our earned income tax credit. That's just been expanded a couple of years ago. And it's gonna be equal to the federal credit that's got the same name, and that's gonna deliver a lot of cash to families. But there's other things we could do there too, including expanding potentially what we call our property tax circuit breaker, which is like a credit for folks who are spending a certain amount of their income on property taxes, either paid through their rent, because anybody who's renting their place out is gonna charge their tenant for that property tax, or that they're paying directly on their own property. So those are just some ways that I think about that.
Why don't I go on and talk a little bit about the work of the commission? So can you guys hear me okay if I just go that?
Yeah.
Okay, I can take this. Oh, wait, I don't. Sometimes I swallow my words. Make sure I don't do that. So this is the illustrious body here. We got this tax revision commission. It's appointed, meets every 10 years, only comes together every 10 years, sort of an unusual thing, right? You got your council's own session year round, but the commission only meets once every 10 years. So this is a really kind of special time. Appointed members are appointed by the mayor, 5 by the mayor, 5 by the council chair, and then the CFO serves ex officio, chaired by our former mayor here, and here's our job is to come up with a set of recommendations by the end of this calendar year. So by December, we're taking in all this input that you're giving us and we're getting around the city. And by the end of 2023, our job is to come up with recommendations. And so to help us think about what those recommendations should look like, the commission, we haven't agreed on what even started to agree on what the actual policy should be, but we've kind of got these big goals. First is a broad resilient tax base for the post-COVID economy, right? So how do we raise enough revenue to pay for all these services in this new kind of economy we're having in the post-COVID world? The second key goal is around progressivity and racial equity. And the council, for the first time, put an express focus on racial equity into our charge, as well as a focus on progressivity. Progressivity just meaning folks with greater ability to pay should pay more. Also, we also want to look at economic efficiency and competitiveness. The city, we won't collect taxes unless there's economic activity going on in the city, excuse me. Finally, thinking about the actual administrative processes by which we all deal with the Office of Tax and Revenue. We deal with the DC tax system, because that itself can be a burden. How do we make sure it's simple, it's open, it's fair? The way we're doing this work, first, is to follow the data. We're looking at the best possible research, what the tax system should look like. We're looking at data showing who is paying taxes, who's not paying taxes. We're engaging with people across the district, trying to get a sense of, hey, we've got a diverse set of perspectives all around the city. And so we're trying to get out into the community and do a little talking to folks, not just looking at what the research says, but listening to what the community is saying. And then the commission has a commitment to working together collaboratively. The commission represents a range of perspectives. We want to make sure we're able to come up with ideas that reflect the best ideas from all different sectors of the city. So I'm just curious, you hear these four big principles, these are big, broad ideas. Any one of these jump out at you? Like you say, yeah, you should be focusing on efficiency and competitiveness. You all should be focusing on having a broader, more resilient tax base for this economy. What jumps out at you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Harold Thomas. I'm a community advocate, youth advocate, community activist since 1970 something. When Mayor Anthony Williams was mayor, I served his committee. I served your re-election, and I'm proud to see you tonight. If there's anybody in here that can comment or tax issue, is former Mayor Anthony Williams. He's the man with the papers. My question is, with the sustainable development projects that's taking place nationwide, because it's an agenda, a U.S. Agenda. With the sustainable development taking place, needing a support system set in to sustain the developments, such as your condos, with your ground level retail. It's been said that bank financing is hard to get for ground level retail. Now, the question about certain development plans that don't have ground level retail is in opposition to certain A and C commission areas like 8F, right? They're opposed to a development project going on at number 10 K Street Southwest. Now, sticking to my point, if you don't have ground level retail with sustainable development for sustainable income, which is workforce affordable. When you get into the workforce thing, you got so many people that has lost their jobs. that can't pay property taxes. That's a big challenge. The COVID epidemic produced that. That's the biggest challenge to taxes now. People not being able to pay the taxes, people not being able to pay property taxes, or a whole lot of other things. I'm one of them. But my point is, if bank financing is hard to get for retail, for sustainable development, that's a tax revenue challenge. Because you can't tax the retail, you don't get no retail sales tax if you don't have occupied retail space. That's the basis of sustainable development. Because the residents in sustainable development do not have to go out into the broader community to shop when it's at their ground level. And the prices attached to that retail segment of sustainable development, the prices are out of the price range of the common people in that area. So you're gonna have a problem with getting bank financing for ground level retail. I know because I follow it. I don't mean to bore you, but knowledge is the best thing.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. One thing I wanted to say to everybody that.
I had an answer, not an answer, but a comment. I don't have an answer. Today, I had a conversation with, the director. Yeah, they had a conversation with the official in, Philadelphia, who's, involved with economic development in Philadelphia. And then, Sharon McMullen from the city of Calgary in Canada. It's out there in Alberta, Western Canada, big city though. And, they had two different views. Mr. Levy was saying in Philadelphia, his view is that if you don't bring people into the area first, right, you're gonna have trouble attracting the business, because there has to be demand for the business. So one of the things we have to think about is how do we incentivize more and more people to live in our community? Right, that's number one. But then once we've done that, city of Calgary, I think, is kind of pointing out what you're saying, that tax policy ought to take some consideration of the fact that there are a lot of businesses that would be viable businesses on a neighborhood community level, and they have to pay. So and the rents are priced up for a variety of reasons. So maybe there should be some concept retail to spawn more retail where there already is a residential demand. And certainly a lot of studies, I know, former Mayor Gregg, worked so hard over in Skylands, which Chris Smith has been involved in, to get retail over in Skyland, additional retail in Skyland, and that's an example. And all those issues prevail there. So I think that one thing we ought to consider is whether we want to make some kind of tax concession for smaller retail in the city.
Indeed, thank you, Mayor. And thank you for your comment, Mr. Thomas. That comment is a demonstration of how thought, an idea can potentially lead to something that we document that can then be put forth to the commission for review. So that's the kind of comments that we need. That's the kind of comments that we're looking for this evening. So appreciate all the comments, and all your comments kind of centered around, businesses and revenue that can be generated if they don't have taxes that are high or the rents that are outstanding, so they can make those businesses flourish. So thank you for doing that. Any other comments?
I know the people did participate in the.
And so the first on the Minty poll was progressivity, give me honest, tough on me, progress. and racial equity is number one with this group tonight about what they think that the Tax Revision Commission should be considering as it thinks about policy. So thank you. Yeah.
So the other thing you all should know is even though we gotta come up with recommendations by the end of the year, we're still pretty, very much in the listening and learning phase. So part of being here, listening and learning from you all. I'll just say a few specific ideas that have been put on the table. We've talked about figuring out ways to collect, taxes in different ways from the business community, through some different kinds of economic activity that aren't now subject to tax. particularly as regards to businesses that kind of do business across state lines, not just in the district, but also elsewhere, and where sometimes the owners live in the suburbs and, they have their businesses in the district and not paying tax, so there are ways to sort of associate the tax with that activity. Some other ideas have been around our property tax relief programs. We've got a bunch of programs in the district. Someone mentioned property taxes and the challenges when property values rise and then your taxes go up along with it. We've got a number of different programs in the district that try to address that. But, that there's arguably too many different programs. Maybe you could consolidate them and have a smaller number, more effective, larger programs potentially. The child tax credit, the federal government over the last few years, particularly expanded during the pandemic and enacted a per child tax credit. Fundable, meaning folks could get it back in the form of a refund. Made a big difference in terms of reducing poverty, helping families make ends meet. The district could, a number of states are doing something similar. The district could do something similar. The proposal out there to do that. Erica mentioned that one of the issues around racial equity is the concentration of wealth, huge concentration of wealth in the hands of a few folks. So we had a presentation that talked a little bit about how could you do with wealth, try to tax some of that wealth. And then some of you've mentioned small businesses and jobs and economic development. We've definitely been talking about different kinds of tax savings, tax credits for economic development. The other thing I want. Yeah, go ahead.
I referred to the slide before this one, when expanding, consolidating property tax relief programs, where are they? How do you get access to them or knowledge about them?
Yeah, there's different ones. Some of them are administered through the income tax. So when, if you file an income tax, there's something called Schedule H. And it's for folks whose property taxes are high relative to their incomes. There's others that are actually administered, the Office of Tax and Revenue will mail out a form to homeowners and they have to fill it out and send it back in. A lot of that requires, access to you have to spend a little bit of time on the internet, on the Office of Tax and Revenue website getting access.
I think that one of the problems is that there's not enough exposure. Hardly people like this room should be full of people. I was shocked to come here and find only a sprinkling of people, the residents of District 100. This affects everyone in different ways. People are with homeowners or with property owners or the whole 9 yards. So it should be something that everybody is made aware of. I mean, through ANCs or through the newspapers or something. But it sounds like, I heard about it today. I got an email this morning, like about 10 o'clock about the meeting tonight. And because I do what I do, I made a point to get over here. And I was surprised that there are few people here. Why? Responsible for making sure that this was exposed to everyone, as many people as possible in every ward.
Again, I'm a former ANC commissioner for 7 years. Back on Mayor Anthony Wayne time in Mayor Washington. Is an ANC commissioner that represent a single member district composed of 2,000 constituents. If you are a ANC commissioner with 5 single member districts, each composing of 2,000 residents, that's 10,000 residents that 5 single member district representative ANC commissioners are supposed to inform of any proposed project development that impact on their lives. That's what ANC commissioners are charged to do, as every other elected official. They all take the same oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And if you read the preamble to the Constitution, you will see where the powers are vested in the people to elect or not re-elect any representative that's not representing them properly. Thank you.
We had a,
As an ANC commissioner for AE01, tonight is actually our commission meeting. So therefore, there are a lot of people who's probably at the meeting in my SME as opposed to being here. So I'm just speaking up for me as an ANC commissioner. I did pass the word.
Yeah, thank you. And there was an ANC only meeting last week on the tax revision commission. And there was a representation from many ANC members throughout the city, all were invited. So these conversations will continue then. And one of the things that is necessary is for folks like yourselves to talk about the information. Close to the conversation, we'll also have some tools and some resources where you can go and add your comments. And we'll also allow Mayor Williams to get a comment.
and I always, have felt that the ANC's job is to do more than decide how wide the sidewalk's gonna be and whether the building is gonna be built. That's important. I think that they really are they're part of a more representative input for policy in DC, so they weigh in on all policies. I think that is the job of the ANCs.
But, yes, ma'am.
I like to say that, I was trying to, remember what was said on the flyer that were attractive. But I do know one thing is that was not on the flyer, that you can find out how you can lower your tax. Sometimes how you present yourself, you know, because it was kind of, it wasn't that urgent in a sense to me. But I decided to come this long. And so, that might be something you want to consider, particularly in certain neighborhoods. Well, in any neighborhood, you put on that on how to lower your taxes, everybody. That's something I want to check. The other thing that,
When we build attendance, build attendance, say, come on in and lower your taxes.
I like to also, and I have a house, home, and I have several homeless family members. They do work, they're not making much money, that's why they with me. But the government will add their salary at the end of the year on mine. I'm a senior citizen. And I don't, I can hardly get anything out of them, so it's not like I'm sitting here, with a lot of money because I got people living with me. Why does the government consider, they say that's your household income? My household, I'm the owner, so it should be the owner of the house income. Is that something that could be considered?
Yes.
Is everybody
Exactly the kind of idea we're looking for.
a household income should not include?
I mean, if you're doing, if that, if that's part of your household, that's, honorable and good, it definitely ought to be recognized.
I'm sorry.
What you're doing in your household is honorable and good, I'm not.
Yeah, they're not in tents, they're in my house here, so.
No, but any household that takes in people and, like my mother adopted me, but I was in foster care, so anybody who takes someone into their household, gives them structure and a home is worthy of praise to me, And I know personally it's important,
Thank you for recognizing. A lot of these events, people don't do good old fashioned outreach anymore. Everybody's operating through the computer, and people are not getting the information. So we really need to go back to old fashioned way. Something like this, cars should have been flooded, doors should have been knocked on and things like that. And you probably will get more people out. But I've noticed it's more like a, gathering of, meeting each other and things like that, and exchanging information. There'd be more organizations in these meetings than is actually the constituents. So it's more of a meet and greet and, I'm having this event, so be at my event. So it's more organizations. So I just think more footwork would, help us out.
Back again. Just let me add a positive suggestion for the operation of ANC commissions. I know for a fact that they have a low operating budget. I know for a fact that the only paid staff person in the ANC commission is the secretary. I know for a fact that the chairperson and the secretary of ANC commissioners hassle over that little grant that they get to operate the ANC commissions. If there was a budget in place that allowed ANC commissioners the cost of expenses to circulate or disseminate information, okay? Because if they don't have the resources, they cannot do the job. No one ANC commissioner is going to have contact with 2,000 constituents. But what ANC commissioners have to get themselves together and do is to stop subjugating themselves to incumbent council members and mayors. Represent the people that you are elected to represent. Don't resent, represent. Okay? When you have ANC commissioners from your Floyd, no negative puns, white communities, they function properly. You're gonna get properly functioning commissioners in Ward 8 in the very, very near future from ANC 87, Capitol Hill. They're coming and they're gonna show you how to operate an ANC commission. You won't do it on your own. You won't be forced to do it the right way. Uphold the Constitution of the United States. Fight for your rights. Advocate for your rights. It is all inherent in the preamble to the Constitution. Read it. What's the first 10 articles of the Constitution? Anybody tell me?
Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights. Did you elect the representatives of the Constitution to write the Constitution for you? Or did we the people write it? Or was it the representatives of we the people? And like I say, if they misrepresent you, it's time to vote them out. And the only way you're going to do this is through civic engagement. That not only includes the whole executive makeup or ANC, city council, mayor. We're going to get statehood. It's inevitable. You're going to get 25,000 new residents living downtown DC. That's increasing your tax base. But you're also going to get a balance of power before we get statehood. And it's coming. The federal workforce is not predominantly Democrat. The federal workforce is predominantly Republican. And when you get a balance of power, you're going to get statehood. And not until then will you get it. I'm too talking. I didn't say too much.
We appreciate your passion, Mr. Thomas.
I do that.
Yeah, we appreciate your passion.
For a long time.
Oh, no, we definitely do. I think one thing though that would be good is how, as events like this occur, how community outreach from community members can help influence people getting in seats. So I think the comments that have been made about how to get more of these engagements and how to act with vision, based on some of the good comments that you have, we've documented those tonight. And so we appreciate your fervor, your passion, because that's necessary for the community to continue to engage us. Yeah, so we appreciate that. Yes, sir. We have a couple of questions that we want to throw at you though, because we want some, what other questions do you have about the DC tax system? I'll give you just a second, so you can just ponder on those for a second. Among the ideas you've heard, what's resonated the most? We know the impassioned feedback from Mr. Thomas is what we're gonna walk away with tonight, but there's been other things about how we can look at rental properties and the tax system, and it aligns with them, property taxes. Well, and so other things that you think have resonated, please think about those so we can make sure we have those documented accurately. And then how can the commission continue to engage the community to collect information gotten a lot of good ideas on how to do that through outreach and through additional engagements and through getting some of our champions that are in the neighborhood to continue. The question, but if you have anything else that you'd like to add, please do so.
Sure. First of all, I just wanted to say I just texted a few friends. There is an ability, if you go to dctaxrevisioncommission.org, anyone in the district can submit written statements. And also there's a virtual listening session happening on May 4th. So I want to make sure, I also want to make sure that more folks are involved, and I hope we can all commit to getting folks out to those events or to the website to submit their written testimony. BC Tax Revision Commission, right there, bctaxrevisioncommission.org. But I wanted to, there were two people I particularly invited who couldn't be here. So I just wanted to briefly share what they wanted me to bring up when we were talking about this. They described a kind of tax, the credit card fees that they have to pay, or credit card interest they have to pay on the debt they've gone into for paying for childcare. My friend Natika, a fellow Ward 7 resident, actually recently left the district because after going $21,000 into debt to pay for childcare for her young child, she couldn't afford it anymore, so she moved back to Illinois with her family to get some help raising her young child. My friend Hayes Cooper, which not the real name, but they didn't want their real name used because they were ashamed, and that is shameful that we put her in this situation. She's $25,000 in debt despite qualifying for subsidies from the district because she can't find many providers who can attend to her special needs child. And so I really want to keep in mind, yes, we're talking about taxes we pay. There are also deliberate choices that are made over how people have to go into debt to pay for services that the district should be providing, quite frankly. Thank you.
Any other feedback or questions or thoughts folks want to offer before we get in?
Yes,
ma'am.
the Office of Tax and Revenue, real estate broker often run into people who are facing foreclosure because of being behind on taxes. And I think that there should be more education, explain to people what this means, when they get notices, when they get nervous and anxious. And, what happens is they get letters that their house is facing foreclosure. And then, if it goes to foreclosure, then they get notice saying that their house is sold and tax sale. However, the fact of the matter is that the house is not sold, it's a certificate, a tax sale certificate that's sold. They have to go through a process before the property actually is lost, but nonetheless, because people are not informed and educated about this, they assume their house is gone and do nothing about it. Very important. To go into the Office of Tax and Revenue and to investigate and to revamp the entire process, because African Americans particularly are losing their houses here in the District of Columbia. And then not only that, but when someone is facing foreclosure, there should be some kind of counseling or some type of outreach to tell them that there are vehicles in place that will help them to be able to perhaps negotiate or be able to do something as far as not losing their house is concerned. Then you have these big companies from all over the country that come into the tax sale and they put up like deposits, millions of dollars of deposits. And then they buy up, blankets of taxes, of properties. And so small people who may want to try to get a house at a foreclosure sale, they cannot because these people come every year and these are huge companies or huge investors who come in and usurp the entire process. And I don't think that enough people know about that. It should be investigated and there should be adjustments made to protect people, especially African Americans, because those are the ones that lose their houses. When you go down and investigate, see statistics as to who's losing their houses, predominantly African Americans.
Tax protections for current homeowners who have back taxes or who are in risk of losing their home.
I don't know what to do.
When we on the phone,
Yeah, yeah, we're taking.
Let me say, thank you, Greg. So last week, we had a conversation with professionals in the tax code, who deal with families and companies and individuals dealing with the DC taxes, and I think the consensus of the people who were at the, conversation was that we could do better providing notice to people. Right now, the approach in DC, and I'm not trying to denigrate DC because, I've been in the government, so I'm not gonna criticize the government gratuitously. But that said, we could be much more proactive notifying people. Right now, we're saying the burden's on you to make sure you're in compliance, rather than, hey, how about us letting you know with advance notice triggers and so on and so forth that you have a problem. So we definitely heard that.
And Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your comment, because what we're seeing is people are getting a letter in the mail saying that they lost their house, they lose their house. That should be a certified notice. Let people know, sometimes people don't get that notice, they don't even know that they're going to foreclose. See, what I'm saying is there seems to be I hate to use the word, but it's kind of like an manner in which they are actually facilitating things that affect people's lives, that affect perhaps a generational wealth, because they put a letter in the mail that could or could not get read. It should be an always certified letter letting people know that their house is in jeopardy or that they're gonna lose their house, they have to foreclose the sale.
We know how to do it with services, we do it with serving notice for court. We'll find out where you are.
House, that is the only thing that a lot of African Americans, most people, not just African Americans, but people, that's the American dream. That's what provides the generational wealth. You lose that,
I'm so glad you brought this up, because that sort of brings us to the importance of tax administration. I don't know if you remember, but maybe 10 years ago, there was a case where someone lost their house because they owed like $100 or something.
right?
And after that, there was a big major
They changed
reform of the tax sale. And now we're supposed to have the Departments of Insurance, Securities and Banking provides the type of service that you're talking about, counseling. There's actually 3 or 4 different ways you can delay the tax sale, or basically not even pay taxes until your finances get better. We have all these programs, but they're all disparate and nobody really knows about them. And we're learning a lot about that. So I really appreciate you bringing this up.
Any other comments before we close for the evening? Comments? Mayor Williams, any parting comments for you tonight, Mr. Chair?
I just welcome everyone's participation and engagement. Look forward to continuing it. Thank you all for taking time out of your evening to come on down. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you all. So the next steps for this are, there are background, there's links to the materials. I think some of you definitely used the Minty poll tonight. We thank you. Please go on and add your comments, Ms. Towers. You can read them so that they're documented. We appreciated them in person. We were documenting them. That's what Becky's been up here doing, taking down your comments. But we appreciate people doing even more and sending those comments into the system so that they're registered and documented that way. Sign up for notices about future events. On May 4th, we are having a virtual event. And so other people can come to the virtual event, participate as much as they want. It'll be facilitated very similarly. We'll be managing the chat as well as hands raised in the chat. So we'll be trying to get people to give that feedback. If you have others that should have been in this conversation or would be informed by some of the information that's given, please direct them to that. And that all of our information is on the site. You can access this presentation. I think the presentation that we roll will be on the site as well. And you can just continually share your ideas. We're going to do at least one more in-person event probably before this is over. And so that information will come out and it'll be all on the site. But we definitely appreciate you coming out. Your comments were great. We needed that type of information and we need the community to stay engaged. So thank you so much for being those community advocates and activists, and entrepreneurs as well. Thank you so much.
Information be sent out on any ideas.
To the Tax Revision Commission, and there will be spaces where you can put your ideas.
Well, we're
Also,
finished with outreach in the community to get ideas and find
Oh, yes, ma'am.
policy.
I'd like them to speak to how the commission will close out.
I was also gonna say, there's a sign-up sheet when you
Yeah.
came in. If you put your email address, you're gonna get all the updates about upcoming town halls or
Well, I just
TRC
wanted to
meetings.
Pick up any ideas that we did.
And let's give a big hand to Rasan and the York for allowing us to be here. We will.
Yeah, the ideas are being documented, yes, ma'am, and there will be a final commission report that will come out and be publicly available at the end, and that will be at the end of the year,
Yeah.
2023.
And we'll be posting things on the website and sending them out by email as we're going through the process of thinking about all these different ideas. So we got a really fantastic long list, and we'll add this idea to the list. And we'll be working through those over the next few months. So we'll be trying to do our best to kind of get the word out about what we're chewing through. And then, again, in December, we'll be sharing out a report of the commission. But then, of course, remember, the report of the commission doesn't, just because the commission reports it, like we're, the commission members, some of them used to be elected officials, but they're not anymore. So it now has to go to the council and the mayor for consideration. So then there will be an opportunity, if there's things in the report that are like, yeah, that's a good idea, that'll be the time to speak up and share with your elected representatives. Hey, I think this is a good idea that should be followed up.
Well, it would be encouraging to know that we haven't really ideas being considered.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you all again. Thank you, Rasan. Thank you, your team, for allowing us open space this evening. Please be safe when you exit. Please take some cookies.
Yes, and hummus.
And some hummus.